I'm a 33-year-old man who thought I had found the ideal partner. My fiancée, a charming and seemingly straightforward woman, entered my life a year ago. She radiated confidence and spoke passionately about wanting a fresh start after a painful marriage. She talked extensively about building a future with me, and I believed every word. We met through a mutual acquaintance at a casual gathering. She seemed genuinely interested in my modest supply company, asking countless questions and praising my ambition. At the time, it felt flattering, and I never suspected ulterior motives. Within months, I was convinced she was the one. I proposed, and she accepted with tears in her eyes, exclaiming how she had finally found real love after enduring a horrible past relationship. I asked vaguely about her previous marriage, but she claimed it had ended out of state and that she had no contact with her ex. I trusted her completely and began planning a life together. As we prepared for our wedding, discussions about finances and living arrangements began. She mentioned that her prior marriage ended on nasty terms but assured me it was completely over. Little by little, though, suspicious clues began to emerge. One major red flag surfaced during our mortgage application process when she failed to produce an official divorce decree. When I asked about it, she deflected, claiming she had misplaced it or that her lawyer hadn't provided a final copy. I chose to trust her, believing she would rectify the issue. However, her behavior started to unsettle me. She became unusually pushy about finalizing certain joint financial matters, such as co-signing on my business expansions. Her tone carried a sense of entitlement, which made me uneasy. One weekend, while organizing our shared closet, I found a hidden file behind some old boxes. Inside were documents referencing a pending divorce case in another state, not a finalized one. My heart sank. The dates overlapped with our engagement, revealing she had been lying about her marital status. That night, I confronted her with the documents. She panicked and admitted the divorce wasn't finalized but claimed it was just a technicality. She insisted her relationship with her ex was over and that she had hidden the truth out of fear of losing me. Reluctantly, I agreed to give her time to finalize the divorce, but my trust was shaken. Over the next week, I did my own digging. Online records confirmed her divorce was pending, with no final hearing scheduled. Strangely, there were no references to any prior hearings, which suggested closure was not imminent. Meanwhile, she continued pressuring me about co-signing business documents, using sweet talk and praises to sway me. Her persistence heightened my suspicion. One evening, while she was out, I conducted a deeper search online. Using details from the hidden files and her ex's last name, which she had let slip once, I located his social media profile. To my shock, I found posts from mere weeks ago in which he referred to her as my wife. There were recent photos of them looking cozy together. It became clear that they were still actively married and possibly living a double life. I texted her that evening, asking when she'd be home. She gave a vague response, and I waited, adrenaline coursing through me. When she returned, I confronted her about her ex's posts. She froze, then tried to spin a story about how he refused to move on and was posting lies. When I pointed out the recent photos, she stammered that she was only being nice to him to smooth the divorce process. Her explanation felt hollow, especially given her deleted text messages and her insistence on involving herself in my business finances. I told her we were postponing the wedding until she resolved her existing marriage. She panicked and swore she was done with her ex emotionally, pleading with me not to call off the wedding. While I pretended to accept her promises, I decided to consult a lawyer to protect myself. If she was still married, any financial entanglement with me could be disastrous. Days later, the situation escalated. Her ex showed up at my doorstep, introducing himself as her husband and demanding we talk. He was smug and brazen, revealing that he knew about our relationship and claiming they had an arrangement. He proposed that I pay them a significant sum, tens of thousands of dollars, to expedite their divorce. If I refused, he threatened to drag out the divorce process and even hinted at suing me for alienation of affection. Furious, I threw him off my property. When my fiancée returned that night, I confronted her about her husband's extortion attempt. She feigned shock, but her darting eyes and evasive answers revealed her guilt. The pieces fell into place. Her push to co-sign business expansions and her husband's bold demands were part of a coordinated effort to exploit me. Realizing I had been manipulated, I ended the engagement and cut all ties with her. I also reinforced my financial safeguards, ensuring they couldn't access my assets. The betrayal was painful, but I'm grateful I discovered the truth before it was too late. The experience taught me to trust my instincts and be vigilant about protecting myself from those who would exploit my trust. It all began with what seemed to be a dream relationship, but ended in a nightmare that tested my resolve and left lasting scars. My fiancée, the woman I had envisioned a future with, turned out to be entangled in a fraudulent scheme with her ex-husband. A scheme designed to exploit me financially. Here is the detailed account of how I uncovered their conspiracy, confronted them, and protected myself from their manipulations. The revelation. It was a seemingly normal evening when the first cracks began to show. I discovered that my fiancée was still legally married to her ex-husband, a fact she had deliberately hidden from me. At first, she tried to play the victim, blaming her ex for delaying the divorce. However, it didn't take long for her true intentions to surface. The two of them were colluding to extort money from me, using her sham status as my fiancée to gain access to my finances and leverage my stability. When I confronted her about her lies, my anger boiled over. I demanded that she leave my house immediately. She broke down in tears, swearing that she had no intention of scamming me and that her ex was the real manipulator. But when she suggested that we pay him off to keep life simple, it became clear to me that she was complicit. Her pleas only strengthened my resolve. That night, I packed her belongings into garbage bags and left them on the porch. Despite her wailing protests and claims that she had nowhere to go, I told her to find a hotel or stay with her so-called husband if that was her choice. Her departure was chaotic. She hurled insults at me, accusing me of being paranoid and sabotaging what she claimed was our path to happiness. I locked the door behind her, ignoring her desperate pounding. Eventually, she left, and I was left grappling with the gravity of what had just happened. Legal counsel and harassment. The next morning, I sought the advice of a lawyer. I laid out the entire sordid story, and he was as stunned as I was by their brazen attempt at extortion. He advised me to gather all evidence, text messages, emails, and any communication referencing money or coercive demands. This would be crucial if they attempted legal threats or further harassment. In the days that followed, I received a barrage of texts and voicemails from both my ex-fiancée and her husband. She alternated between tearful pleas and manipulative offers, claiming we could fix this if I helped finalize her divorce. Meanwhile, her husband tried intimidation tactics, threatening to drag my name through the mud if I didn't cooperate. My lawyer advised me not to engage with them directly. Instead, we drafted a stern cease and desist letter, warning them of legal action if their harassment or slander continued. The pregnancy claim. As if their initial scheme wasn't outrageous enough, they soon tried a new angle. Her ex-husband showed up unannounced, claiming that my ex-fiancée was pregnant. He implied that if the child was mine, I would be financially responsible. I could hardly believe their audacity. Given that she was still involved with her husband, the claim was laughable. I told him in no uncertain terms that I would demand a paternity test if she persisted with this story. He muttered threats about taking me for everything, but I remained steadfast, refusing to be intimidated. Strengthening my defenses. Determined to protect myself, I took proactive measures. I rekeyed the locks on my property, installed additional security, and ensured that my financial accounts were bulletproof against any unauthorized access. Meanwhile, I meticulously archived every piece of evidence. Text messages, voicemails, and their attempts to coerce money from me. My lawyer assured me that we had a strong case if they escalated their tactics. The confrontation. The situation came to a head when my lawyer and I arranged a final confrontation. We invited my ex-fiancée and her husband to a neutral location, a conference room at my lawyer's office. They arrived with smug expressions, clearly expecting me to cave under pressure. The ex-husband started by proposing that I pay a sum to finalize their divorce quickly, after which I would marry her. Their audacity was almost comical. My lawyer calmly presented a stack of documented evidence, proof of her marriage, messages referencing money in exchange for a divorce, and their hush money demands. He made it clear that if they continued their harassment or defamation, we would file charges for extortion. Their confidence quickly evaporated. My ex-fiancée tried to backpedal, claiming it was all a misunderstanding, but the evidence was irrefutable. They had no choice but to withdraw any claims and leave empty-handed. Aftermath. In the weeks that followed, word spread among mutual acquaintances about the ordeal. My ex-fiancée and her husband attempted to paint me as the villain, accusing me of being greedy and refusing to help with a little money. However, once people heard the full story, that she was still married and conspiring with her husband to scam me, sympathy shifted entirely in my favor. I later learned that my ex-fiancée had lost her job, likely due to suspicious behavior or conflicts stemming from her schemes. Desperate and financially struggling, she and her husband moved to another city, presumably to find new victims or rebuild their lives. Reflections and lessons. This experience left me with a mixture of relief and bitterness. While I was grateful to have escaped their trap with my resources intact, the betrayal left deep scars. My trust had been shattered, and I found myself questioning whether there had been early warning signs I had ignored. Her eagerness to merge finances, her secrecy about her divorce, and her manipulative tendencies. Still, I chose to focus on the lessons learned. I reinforced my boundaries and adopted a newfound vigilance in relationships. My lawyer assured me that I was well protected should they ever attempt further harassment or defamation. The ordeal served as a stark reminder of the importance of caution, especially when a partner shows undue interest in one's financial affairs. Ultimately, I escaped their web of deception. Though I am single again, I would rather be alone and secure than entangled in a lifetime of manipulation. This experience taught me the value of resilience and the importance of standing firm against those who seek to exploit trust and generosity.